So today I just wanted to take a quick look at Rites of Spring. It is a American horror film taking place on the spring equinox. So our events basically begin on the evening of the 20th and carry over to the following day of the 21st. And what I think is really interesting about this story here is it's basically the story of, I guess you could say, a kidnapping gone wrong, or a kidnapping meeting a supernatural kidnapping and pretty much just going to hell, which, okay, you could probably think to yourself, how on earth would that even make sense? Well, our film opens up with two young women who are out drinking and they are abducted by, I guess you could say, an occultist of sorts who must make his yearly sacrifice for his crops. So along the way, there is a second kidnapping, totally unrelated. We've got a group of, I guess you could say, schmucks who have kidnapped a young girl from a wealthy family and they're holding her for ransom. Somewhere down the line, their paths cross and you've pretty much got the greedy kidnappers running across the occultist, and they're just kind of trying to get out of there, as well as just kind of collect the money that they had set out to gain, which really isn't working out too well. It's definitely an interesting story. It's a basic plot. You really can't expect too many, I guess you could say, thrills and chills, for lack of better terminology, but it's a decent story. You've definitely got this man who is holding these women hostage in his barn. And oddly enough, what throws the women off is he asks them, "Are you clean?" And then proceeds to take, I guess you could say, a blood sample from both women and gives them to a creature, which is somewhere within the barn as well. And then, of course, one of the women is chosen. She is disrobed and given a sponge bath and has a papier-mâché cow head placed upon her head. So the other young woman, who I, for the life of me, cannot remember her character's name, but she got on my nerves after a while because she had like the most annoying scream. It didn't sound realistic to me. It sounded more like she was frustrated. Like she wanted to be in control of the situation, I guess. And I don't know if that's more in line with the character, if she's supposed to be some strong, independent sort. The character just really wasn't fully developed enough in order for me to actually draw that conclusion, but her screaming every now and again just kind of got on my nerves. Not that she's a constant screamer throughout the film, but still. So obviously her friend doesn't meet too great an end and is later beheaded, because apparently that is the creature's thing. We're not really told who this entity is. Obviously it's understood that he is, I guess you could say, a forest, you could say he's somewhat of a harvest god or a demigod, but he's never really given a name or an official role other than the creature that goes around collecting his tributes. So you've got this going on as the main plot, and as I've said, you've got the background kidnappers who just kind of stumble across this, I guess you could say, this nightmare. They just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And of course, they also kind of get recruited into the, I guess you could say, the harvest sacrifices. But all in all, I would say, yes, it's a very basic plot. It has decent dialogue, good acting. You've got good lighting. It's a very dark film. Some scenes, which one would assume would be very difficult to see, are actually decently lit, so you can actually see what's going on. To some degree, there are a lot of things that are left unanswered, but to my understanding, the filmmaker actually plans to return with a sequel, which will fill in all of those gaps there. But for the most part, yeah, I think it was an interesting film. Maybe more of a time killer film, something you'd watch just to pass time, but not really necessarily something that you would consider picking up and making part of your film collection. I definitely do enjoy films with these themes, especially nowadays. There seems to be a lot more films having to deal with the solstice, the equinox, and it's not necessarily the fact that it's in mockery of people's spiritual beliefs. I mean, obviously it's a horror film, so you have to have some sort of a draw, but it kind of brings the awareness to the general public also that, you know, these are someone's practices, not necessarily sinister in nature, but I'd like to believe that to some degree, maybe they may pique someone's interest. Someone may decide to look further into these and expand their horizons. But I think it's just a great touch on filmmakers that they've kind of taken more of a look into the, I guess you could say, the spiritual belief systems of other peoples. But I don't consider it a disrespectful film. It's a horror film. It's more of a slasher. You've got this whole hostage situation, some mild suspense, but at its core, it's a horror movie. You need some kind of a gore or a monster or creature element. So I understand that. But yeah, I would say definitely it's worth at least a one-time watch. If you have seen the movie or if you've run across anything similar, I would definitely love to hear your recommendations or just share thoughts on this film. But that is pretty much all I have for you guys today, and I will talk to you later.